Have you ever found yourself engaging in toxic behaviors such as procrastination, overeating, or substance abuse, even though you know they're not good for you? Have you ever wondered why it's so hard to break these habits, no matter how much willpower you have? The answer lies in the way our brains are wired and how our behaviors are shaped by our environment. In this video, we will explore the science of operant conditioning and how it can lead to toxic behaviors, as well as strategies to break the cycle of toxic habits for a healthier and happier life. But first, let's identify what operant conditioning is. Operant conditioning is a type of learning where behaviors are shaped by their consequences. In other words, if a behavior is followed by a positive consequence, such as a reward, it's more likely to be repeated in the future. Conversely, if a behavior is followed by a negative consequence, such as a punishment, it's less likely to be repeated. In operant conditioning, immediate rewards after a behavior are more effective in shaping future behavior than delayed rewards. If a behavior is followed by a positive consequence such as a reward, it's more likely to be repeated. Conversely, if a behavior is followed by a negative consequence, such as punishment, it's less likely to be repeated. The timing of consequences is an important factor in shaping behavior through operant conditioning. Now that we understand what operant conditioning is and how it works, we can explore the two different types of reinforcement that can shape behaviors. Positive reinforcement is when a behavior is followed by a positive consequence, such as praise, recognition, or a reward, which increases the likelihood of the behavior being repeated in the future. Negative reinforcement is when a behavior is followed by the removal of a negative consequence, such as the end of a painful experience or the avoidance of a negative outcome, which also increases the likelihood of the behavior being repeated in the future. So, how operant conditioning can lead to toxic behaviors? While operant conditioning can be used to promote healthy behaviors, such as exercise or healthy eating, it can also lead to toxic behaviors if the consequences are not aligned with our long-term goals. For example, if we indulge in comfort food to cope with stress, we may feel better in the short term, but it can lead to weight gain and other health problems in the long term. Similarly, if we procrastinate to avoid a difficult task, we may feel relieved in the short term, but it can lead to increased stress and poor performance in the long term. And that brings us to the dark side of negative reinforcement. Negative reinforcement is a powerful tool for shaping behavior, but it can also have a dark side that leads to toxic habits and behaviors like poor academic or work performance because of procrastination to avoid difficult tasks, chronic pain and illness because of binge eating to cope with stress or negative emotions, substance abuse to escape pain or discomfort, social isolation and loneliness to avoid rejection or criticism, mental health problems like increased stress, anxiety, depression. It's important to recognize the negative impact of negative reinforcement and take steps to break the cycle of toxic behaviors. This requires self-awareness and a willingness to reflect on one's own behaviors and patterns of thinking. Examples of toxic behaviors include procrastination, negative self-talk, substance abuse, binge eating or restrictive eating habits, social isolation. Now let's talk about positive reinforcement and how it can be used to promote healthy behaviors. Positive reinforcement is the practice of rewarding desired behaviors, which increases the likelihood of the behavior being repeated in the future. Examples of positive reinforcement include praising oneself or others for accomplishments, rewarding oneself with enjoyable activities or experiences, setting achievable goals or milestones, and rewarding oneself for achieving them. Creating a positive environment can also help promote healthy behavior patterns and break the cycle of toxic behaviors. This can be achieved by surrounding oneself with positive and supportive people, practicing self-care and self-compassion, engaging in activities that bring joy and fulfillment, If you find that your toxic behaviors are deeply ingrained and you're struggling to implement the tips we've provided, it may be beneficial to seek the guidance of a therapist or counselor. Therapeutic approaches like cognitive behavioral therapy or acceptance and commitment therapy are particularly effective for dealing with toxic behaviors. Now that you have a better understanding of operant conditioning and how it can lead to toxic habits, it's time to take action. I challenge you to sit down and choose one toxic behavior that you want to change. Start with one that is not too difficult to change for your first test, and consider what the reward is and how you can achieve it in other ways. Remember that breaking the cycle of toxic behaviors can be challenging, but it's necessary for a healthier and happier life. So, start now and make a change. And if you want to learn more about how to break bad habits and create positive ones, check out our highly recommended book, Atomic Habits by James Clear. This book offers practical strategies for changing habits and building a better life. You can check the link in the description for that. And for a deeper dive into the science behind habit formation and modification, we recommend watching our video, The Scientific Way to Build Unbreakable Habits, where we explore the neuroscience of habit formation and provide practical tips for building habits that last. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on our next video here on the Tree of Life channel.